Hey everybody, Mark here at Gilbo Realty, and today I'm going to discuss home prices, banks, what causes real estate crashes. It is not what you think, okay? Let me show you why people have had a hard time in real estate over the last few years. Obviously, we know 2020 was COVID, began early 2020. That year after we opened back up, real estate was skyrocketing up. Now, let's just do an example of what kind of happened. These aren't accurate numbers, but they're pretty close. So, pre-COVID, February 2020, before that, you could go get a 30-year mortgage for about 2.5%. Not kidding, you had great credit, you had it. 2.5%. Some even got lower than that, 2.25%. Let's say you take the average $100,000 house. In the first year of 2020, that house, after 2020, would be worth about $125,000. And then after that, 2021, it was still crazy. But let's say real estate really went up, not as much 2020. Let's say it peaked up about 15%. So now your $100,000 house is now worth about $144,000, $145,000. So you still got this ongoing trend going up, and this happened. In reality, this is really what's been going on. 2022, not as crazy as 2021, actually. Till the end of 2022, the year, it was horrible, right? So, but we had a 10% increase, let's just say. So now your $100,000 house from 2 years ago is now worth about $160,000. So 2023 comes around. The craziness of real estate is slowing down. Inventory's low. Not as many listings. Rates are way up, right? So now we're at 7.75% compared to about 2.5%, and we even hit 8%, probably near 8% for bad credit or lower credit. But you still get an increase. So at the end of this year, let's say we see a 2 to 5% increase in certain markets. So this $100,000 house within a 3-year period is now $163,000, 4-year period, okay? This is where people get a little frustrated because during all these years, you're like, man, look at this, going up, it's going up, it's going up. But they're like, well, my city, real estate prices aren't dropping. No, they're not. But what is dropping is the percentage of increase per year. Craziness, getting back to normal with the increases. But now what's happening is that we've hit the peak. We're at the top of the mountain with a flag. Okay? We just had this ramp up. We're up here saying victory, right? You know, it was a great ride. What a ride. But over here on the other side, once this guy turns his head and starts looking down, it's an oh shit moment, right? Because now we're seeing the other side of the mountain. Now this is going to be the downturn. And how bad it's going to be is anyone's guess. But if anybody has gone through 2008, it was a scary time. And I'm going to talk about that too here shortly. So, we're on the downside of the mountain. We've just peaked at about 3% this year, year-over-year growth. Next year, we'll start declining in prices. A lot of places already are. From what I read, 75 to 80% of the counties in the U.S. are already starting to decline. And inventory is also on the rise. And in my area, in upstate New York, inventory is on the rise. Okay? So we are now on the downward slope. Oh shit moment. What's going to happen is anybody's guess. Okay? But let's talk about a couple other things that I hear all the time. I was listening to Ken McElroy, one of his podcasts, and a lot of these, financial guys still don't understand what causes real estate crashes. Real estate doesn't crash. If you actually raise real estate, you raise rates to 10%, people are still going to buy real estate. They're not going to like it. They're going to pay more money. But those who can't afford it are still going to buy real estate. Okay? Even at 10%. You can raise it to 15%. Somebody's going to come around and they're going to buy the house because they have to buy. Now, it's not going to be crazy. It's not going to be normal compared to the last 15 years. But people are still going to buy. real estate will go on forever without crashing. Okay, even if you raise the rates. So what real estate needs is a catalyst. And in 2008, it were the banks. And someone else that was really doing major buco business back then, which some of us may remember, was CountryWide Mortgage. Now, I did a lot of mortgages back then. I remember doing a lot of CountryWide mortgages. They were doing trillions of dollars per year. Trillions. I'm not talking hundreds of billions. Trillions. And in 2008, CountryWide was forced to sell to Bank of America. Right, here we are again with Bank of America for $4 billion, a fraction of what it was in such a short time. In 2007, it started having issues. A lot of people stopped paying. But in 2008 is when it all came to heat. Okay, the Countrywide was over. They sold out. The Department of Justice, they brought out civil fraud charges against Countrywide. It's kind of funny, from its relationships with Fannie and Freddie Mac, but nobody in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac went to jail last time I checked. Okay, so the catalyst in the beginning of 2007, we saw it coming, was Countrywide. When Countrywide went out of business, I remember that morning, a lot of people couldn't truly lend. They had so many lending products that it drastically changed the ability to lend to the consumer. Now, let me talk about something else. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about catalyst. Because, again, real estate doesn't crash on its own. It needs something else to happen first. Understand that. When someone says real estate's going to crash, it's not going to crash without something else crashing first. And in 2008 to 2012, 465 banks failed between that 4-year period. Utter insanity, okay? Bank failures will once again crash real estate without a doubt. And now they're consolidated. So you have Bank of America buying up banks again, taking over people's assets. JP Morgan doing the same thing. But now when all this stuff implodes, it's going to be way worse. And let me show you what happened to you. You can't really fathom how bad 2008 crash was unless you start truly looking at the number of banks that went out of business. I mean, this is 2008, okay? Bear Stearns, when they went out, acquired by JP Morgan Chase, right? Nobody ever thought Bear Stearns would be would be thrown to the wolves, but they were. And First Integrity Bank was a great bank. Indy Mac did a ton of loans. We did so many loans with these banks. Washington Mutual was a huge bank. JP Morgan again. Citizen, okay? So look at these. So in the first year, 2008, 26 banks went out of business. This is when the real estate crash began. Okay? Now, real estate was slowing, but it never crashes. 2009, let's take a look at this. Look at all these banks in 2009 that crashed. Keep going. The list is long. 140 banks in 2009 alone. So do you understand why I keep saying real estate doesn't crash? Banks do. And when banks crash, nobody can lend. You can't get a loan. Good luck, or at least not one you care about. And that is the major issue right now that's going on. Again, now let's take a look. 2010, look at all these banks. So 2009, 140. 2009, look at all these. Champion Bank, they did a ton of loans. A ton with them. Okay, First National, ton. Keep going. 157 banks went out of business in 2010. 2011. 92 starts slowing down a little bit. There ain't much left. 2012, 51, 13, 24. This carried on for a while. So you had 20 banks. So you see everything started slowing down. The economy came back a little bit. They got all the bad inventory squared away. They started bringing out foreclosures. Okay? But here's the problem. Again, we are starting to see bank failures again. So this just happened. Citizens Bank out in Iowa was taken over by Iowa Trust and Savings. So we have 6 banks right now. Now look, it's never going to be like this. But the problem is, this is how real estate crashes. And you have to remember that rates weren't that bad then. These rates back then were probably 4.5%, 5%. They were pretty good. But now we have banks failing. We have a severe cash flow problem. Okay? And rates are now near 8%. Real estate values, okay, just went to their highest mark in a 3-year period in history. Then you have the mountain that we're about to take the ride down with a broken sled. Then we have no clue where it's going to end. But one thing I do know is that when banks fail, real estate starts to crash because you can't lend. And what I'm thinking is, when the big mortgage lenders start running into problems, when some big banks start running into problems, when some big and large corporations start running into problems, which they will, this will ramp up really quick. You have to remember, in 2008, 2009, 2010, these bank crashes were overnight look. This is 2010, okay? This is still 2010. Within a month of January, you still had 15 banks fail in a month. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 banks fail on the same day. I mean, you go back to 2008, where shit really started hitting the fan. Look at this. Okay, it wasn't even bad yet. But boy, when you hit 2009, the bomb went off and everything started to fall apart. So please keep in mind, when you see other people out there, the gurus I like to call them, and everybody else, right? Real estate doesn't fail, it doesn't crash like the stock market. And not even the stock market can crash anymore because they have the plunge protection team, right? They start funneling billions of dollars in to buy up shares so nobody loses money. So you have all these bubbles. They're all fake. The U.S. economy is fake. They've been printing money for 30 years, okay, since the 90s. We've been living off printed money for 30 years. There's been no real growth. It's all junk. It's all crap. We have no manufacturing. What can you grow from? And Wall Street's gotten out of control. They're a mess. You have the banks that are still a mess. And again, there's going to be at some point in time, it's going to be a large corporation, and maybe a few of them. It's going to be large banks and a bunch of other banks still going out of business. And when that starts to happen, when lending tightens, then you will have your crash of real estate that will follow. This is just reality. You should really go here to Wikipedia and type in list of bank failures in the United States from 2008 to present. And I can't believe, I remember this. I didn't know it was this bad, because at around this time they started hiding a lot of these bank failures. It was so bad that this is probably coming again to a worse extent just because of these peaks. So where this graph goes from here is anybody's guess. It's anyone's guess. All I know is we're at the peak of the mountain, and in most counties, cities in the United States, or probably around the world, we're on our oh shit moment, and all we can do is pray and see what happens and hope that someone with a brain steps in to make sure that people are protected and chaos doesn't break loose. So anyways, Mark here at Gilbo Realty, and don't want to scare you, but this is where we're at. And I hope you guys have a good evening. Take care of yourself.